All right, and then kind of our favorite segment here the past couple weeks. Let's get into the Hotlist wheel and see what we got. We got 5 topics left, so we might need to start adding some more to our list here. But here we're going to go with the biggest jump of 2025 is our topic this week. So I think we can go any class, but the prospect that made the biggest jump in 2025.
Man, I'm just going to start this off, and I can choose another guy, but we were talking about him on some of our calls, and the guy I'm going to throw out there is right-handed hitter, right-handed pitcher, Jason Phillips. He was at Plano his entire high school career. From what I understand now, he is at a kind of an academy down in Georgia. So I don't know how that'll factor in with like this upcoming spring, or we got to figure out kind of exactly what his situation is going to be. But from all accounts, man, he is really, really seeing a huge jump with the fastball, turning into a real guy. Looks like he moves for how big he is, moves really well down the mound, really controlled, and it's easy velo, like low 90s now from everything that's coming out. And he's always had a ton of bat speed at the plate, but made a huge jump there, kind of going from like that mid to upper 80s into like now sitting low 90s, and he's uncommitted. So that is a guy that I would definitely pay a ton of attention to if I was a college coach. Who just keeps making jumps and really stands out to me just because a lot of the stuff that's been coming out on him was this fall as well. But I'll circle back. That was one that just popped up. I'm going to do some digging, see if I can find another guy to mention as well.
I'm going to hop in. I'm going with Sam Finn out of the 2026 class. I think when you look back at it, this time last year, Sam wasn't even in our rankings. And Hammett, you might know a little bit more on this situation than I do, but back in, I want to say his sophomore year, I want to say he was injured, so did not pitch, I don't think, for Plainfield North, but could be wrong there. Regardless, we didn't know a ton on him, but last year we see him at the Kickoff Classic, and I see him just absolutely deal against Rochester, and then he debuts in our rankings at 55. And now that he comes to senior future games over the summer, was maybe the biggest winner from the Illinois side of things, and then now heading into this spring, he's probably going to be a guy that's going to get some pro guys out to see him this spring with Plainfield North. So I'm going to go with Sam Finn as my biggest jump of 2025.
Parker Roop at Normal U High. He's a 2027. Is going to be my 2025 biggest jump that I'll go with here. He is a guy that came to the Peoria preseason ID in the winter, and I think seemingly none of us really knew who he was. And he kind of jumped on the radar there, just like an interesting prospect, like an upside name that maybe some of the metrics and the tools and things like that were behind, but just physically he looked the part, the left-handed swing, and then he's come to 2 other events since then, one being the Central Illinois Summer ID and then the Illinois State Games. And it seems like if you just look at his metrics, everything's continuing to tick up. The speed's getting better. Defensively, he's getting better. I did see him in the spring, and I was impressed by him in the spring for U-High. But he's just a name that seems like everything's starting to kind of click for him. And I think next year, I think it's only going to continue to get better because you just look at him, he's kind of got that baby face. The build still has a lot of room to develop. And then on September 28th, he committed to Belmont, is what we have in his profile. So just a big year for Parker Roop there out of Normal U-High.
I'm going to go with Trey Cole. Trey, he started in the hundreds in the last update, pops up to 44 in the newest update. This is a guy I saw in the spring, I believe, in super sectionals against Triad. He came out of the pen. He was pumping 91, a little bit wild, but it was very noteworthy. And then he goes on into, I think, Grand Park, and he has a big performance there in front of the Indiana staff. Big enough for us to invite him to senior future games. He excels there once again. And then a week later, he comes to Illinois State Games, and he has the max fastball for the entire event at 93.4. Very loud stuff from Trey Cole. Athletic actions on the mound. Very interesting pitcher to keep an eye on, who's still uncommitted in that 26 class.
I'm going to get in with a recent commit William Houston from Stag, 2026, going to SIUE. He's one that we've liked for a while. Just like he was one that we were dreaming on. Basically, I mean, he's 6 foot 150, really young look. Always moved really well. We saw him in 2024. He was 85. Now he's bumping 91 at the state games. So I mean, it's no surprise with just the way the arm works and how he moves down the mound. But yeah, I mean, he's made a big jump and he's nowhere near like his ceiling and what he's going to be.
This might be my favorite segment so far, Gavin, as far as the topics, because like there's so many guys to choose from. As I'm looking through my list here, I wrote down about 6 guys that I want to talk. Like James Feigelson, I love that. Anthony Chavez at Mount Carmel. Like we were always intrigued by the bat. And I thought it was very interesting, like gap to gap, middle of the order guy, but I thought it just took on a whole new level. For Mount Carmel late this spring into the summer, carried it over to the senior future games, and then Illinois State games, committed to Illinois, and it's, now I think it's one of the top left-handed bats in the state. Maybe to some it's long been that, and we were late to the party, but at least what he did in front of us was super impressive all year. Another guy I wanted, like Mickey Lotus. What he did this year is unbelievable. Didn't start for St. Lawrence in 2024. Starts for St. Lawrence this year. Has one of the top batting averages in the state. Makes all state for us. And just is such a gamer. Top of the order. Like fits perfectly as a leadoff hitter. Can do it all as far as just bunt, hit, run, play some defense. Big fan of Mickey Lotus. He continues to get better. And then I mean, Gav, this might be your, one of your biggest Central Illinois favorites down there, but Traxton Roberts, what he did this year, outstanding. Made a huge jump velo-wise, and then just like performed at the highest stages, biggest stages, highest levels, all summer. Commits to Kentucky. He's our most valuable pitcher at the state games. Another one that I thought took a huge jump this year. And I'd credit his high school coach, but Anthony Cardilano, center fielder at Brother Rice. When we saw him, I think Tyler saw him, I saw him a couple times, and just plays with his hair on fire. He's a football player out there playing baseball. Like everything he does is 100%. The way he runs the bases, the way he attacks fly balls. He ends up breaking his arm in high school before the playoff run for Brother Rice. They still make it to state. That certainly impacted their program. But Coach McBride long was telling me, like, hey, you guys are too low on Cardilano. You got to see this guy. Like, you guys got to make sure you watch him. And, and then I think Cardilano's back playing this fall and, seems to be healthy. But that's a guy that I just think for, schools looking for a 2027 out there who missed their summer. Anthony Cardilano, keep an eye on him. Take a look at him. But those were just a few that just briefly going through our list. I was like, I want to shout these guys out.
Yeah, I got a handful of guys that I could talk about as well. 2 of them are actually back-to-back in the rankings. Dominic Batista just has really turned himself into a guy. Like, just keeps getting more physical. Like, the bat is really starting to, like, stand out. I mean, he could always go get it in the outfield. It was always really interesting, but he's starting to get some juice in that bat to where he's a real guy. Like, pros should be looking at him next year for sure. And then right behind him, Gavin Swartz. I think he proved a lot to our staff that he can be a guy that'll lead that pitching staff, because that was like a question mark we had losing Eberle. And so, yeah, Swartz has all the talent in the world, but is he a guy that dominates high school right now, just with like the polish, and can he throw strikes? And he proved that he could. So he'll be a huge piece for them going into this coming spring. And then one more guy, obviously Caden Shotzik. I mean, that dude just made a huge jump, or maybe it wasn't, like, maybe we were just late to the party, but like from what he showed us from the last time we saw him to the state games and then beyond at Grand Park, like that dude, I mean, it showed when we reflected it in the rankings when we rose him 30 spots to number 10. Now he's committed to Illinois State, but I mean, like really, really, really interesting on the mound, like power arm, and the bat, obviously, like the dude just rakes and it's loud, and she's kind of a freak, like, and he's kind of he might have always been that way, but like, man, it really stood out to us on both sides of the ball.
No, it's everything he does is loud.
Yeah.
the way he swings the bat and the EVs he gets. And I think there's so much more to come with him from a polish, from a baseball standpoint. And another guy like Cole Brent, that's sticking on like this Central Illinois, like Normal U-High. You mentioned Parker Roop. Man, Cole Brent to me just continues to get better. Prove it to us. I think we currently have him. You know, I don't mind saying that, like, we do the rankings and we update them a couple times a year. Like, we will be wrong at times. We don't try to be, but like that's a guy that probably needs to be higher. You know, after everything we saw this summer and then continuing into the fall, like Cole Brent, you really break down his numbers, what he does, left-handed hitter, like he's got juice, he can really run. I'm a big fan of Cole Brent, and I think there's a lot more to even tap in there with him as well.